Let us begin the meeting of the Cabell County Commission. Meeting on the third floor of the Cabell County Courthouse in Commission Chambers. Regular commission meeting Thursday, March 25th, 2021 at 10 a.m. If you would please rise, we'll have a prayer and pledge. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we would ask that as we go about our daily lives, we try to follow the example set by our Savior Jesus Christ of love and compassion. Be with us, guide us and direct us in our duties, help us to do what is right for the citizens of the county, all of which we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And next item is to approve the minutes of the special commission meeting of February 23rd, 2021, and the regular commission meeting of March 11th, 2021.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item is to approve the erroneous assessments, land consolidation, split tickets, probate documentation from the county clerk's probate office.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. The motion approved. Approve the purchase orders numbers 21-102-407 through number 21-102-608. Pay jackets, monthly payments to Fifth Third for fuel card purchases, handwritten checks to Unum, $6,629.83, and Guardian, $20,033.72.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. It is approved. We have Angela Adams, who is registered to speak, and I think that the item that she would like to speak about is on our agenda, if you would care to wait. Fine. Do we have anybody else who wants to say anything about anything? Then we'll proceed. Item 21-03-25060, discussion of Mike Davis, Cabell County E911 Director, regarding the official start of the addressing project to begin. Could you find a better day than April Fool Day? April 1st, 2021. Or no fooling, we're starting, or something?
Only we're starting, absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity to address the commission. If you don't mind, I'll never be able to see you, my glasses fogged up. I'll put something for you to look at other than me this way. This is our new poster we're putting up. As you, the commissioners, are aware, we've been working on a project for 2 years now, actually. Several years ago, the West Virginia State Legislature mandated that every county in the state readdress their county. It was an unfunded mandate, so we've been a little behind at getting there because financially we just weren't in a position to get with a contractor and have this work done. It's quite expensive. The mandate was put in place so that everybody in Cabell County would have a, quote, city-style address, basically a street name and a number, as opposed to a box number or a rural route. Those things do not help with emergency response, obviously. In the past, we've had people tell us, you go to the big tree and you turn right, go beside the barn. And that's kind of hard to get you help when you need it. But while we were going through this, of course, we found that we have a lot of duplication in Cabell County with street names, street numbers, street ranges of numbers. I believe there's 100 blocks of Route 60 right now. That's a problem. We're trying to get someone an ambulance there, or even if you're trying to locate a business that's there. When the remainder of our project is finished, like I say, we've been working for 2 years now. But now we're going to roll it out officially. All the addresses will be put in place based on an equation that the state legislation put in place with the state mapping board, which is no longer in place, but when it was originally in place, and that is 1,000 address points for every mile. What that allows is, if you have a space between your residence or your business, for us to build a new place, we can give you the exact address that can be found by you and your patrons and everyone else. So when this project is completed, emergency response will be much more efficient. People will be able to find the businesses a little easier, and technology like Google Maps and so forth will have our information, and people from out of town will be able to get around in Cabell County a little easier than they can at this point. And you can probably get your pizza delivered a little better too, so there's always byproducts. 2 years ago, we contracted with Atlas Geographic out of Wilmington. They've been working on this project for 2 years. It got delayed a bit with COVID, as we all did. It hit them hard as well. They couldn't travel here to do the work that they had to do. But in that 2-year period, they have been collecting the data, correcting and fixing center lines on the roadways, and doing field verification of addresses. As we spoke with you all in the past in informational meetings, we've been working with the sheriff and the assessor because this project is going to be a lot of work on them as well. So we're trying to find the right times and the times it's not their peak work hours and peak times of the year to roll our address changes out, because everybody has to pick up the load on this. So we will begin officially rolling this out on April 1st. We have a press conference scheduled at our organization on Norway, the 911 Center, at 10:30 on Tuesday. We're going to be announcing, inviting all the media. We'll try to answer any and all questions that they may have. We'll try to get this information out as best as we can. You, the commissioners, you're obviously invited to come out, participate, speak, whatever you'd like to do. We appreciate your guidance at any time. The sheriff and the assessor as well. They have a major role in this project. On April 1st, we'll send our finished edit sheets, which is basically the data, to our contractor. They in turn will send it to the address manager for the Postal Service, and then we will start generating letters to residents and businesses in Salt Rock. The post office requires us to do this by zip codes. We have 14 zip codes in Cabell County that affect us. They're not all, part of the zip codes are out of the county, but the part that's in it belongs to us, of course. And we will be notifying those people by letter, and it'll tell them exactly what they need to do as far as utilizing their addresses. Once they get the letter, they'll have 1 year to go through transition and change it. They can use their new address immediately, but the post office will deliver all their mail from both their new address and their old address for 1 year. So hopefully it'll be a smooth transition. Salt Rock was picked because it's a small zip code, small area, and they did need a lot of changes. So it's our test project. It'll help us, the assessor's office, the sheriff's office, work through all the little bumps that we're going to go through as we make these changes. And then we will go one zip code at a time over the next basically year and a half. So it's not a one-time thing. We have posters like the one we have here. We've printed up 50 of these. They're going to be in the post offices. They're going to be sent to the utilities in different places. At the bottom, you see we have a phone number that's dedicated for this project. When we roll the letters out, then we expect an influx of phone calls. So we're going to have that phone number manned all day, every day for a certain amount of time, and then it will go to a voicemail. And we will answer those voicemails within 1 working day of the time that we receive it, so we don't have to staff it all the time. But we also have our email address, our website, and a URL code that actually works. So all that information can be dumped over to your phone. Again, we're looking forward to a press conference on Tuesday so that we can hopefully get the media on board and get this information to the public as quick as we can. And our project, we hope when it's done, will enhance emergency operations in Cabell County. Welcome any questions you may have.
I just want to thank you for all your work. That's quite an undertaking. And it's not going to be a popular one either, so
It is not.
we appreciate everything that you all have done
Thank
to
you.
make it happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to reiterate the need, I mean, it's something the legislature mandated, and I know a lot of fingers are gonna be pointed towards the county when people are upset when they have new addresses, they have to get new, change of addresses on their credit cards, on their mortgage payments. It's gonna, even on businesses, it's gonna be, you know, quite frustrating, but it is important to stress that it was a legislative mandate for the entire state and not anything that came out of the
Right.
county. But just to give you an example of the need for this, one of my neighbors had a stroke. It was a year ago, and when EMS went to show up, they passed the house because of the addressing situation.
Yes.
And the neighbor had to go flag them down. So I think that when seconds matter between life and death, this will be a good thing to have the exact address.
Yes, ma'am. And in the middle of the night, when an ambulance or a police officer is trying to get to a residence, if your address is 1,000, then we know it's exactly 1 mile out that road. So we may not find it immediately, but we'll know we'll be in the right area at least quickly so that we can locate it. So that's the reason for the equation that the state came up with.
My understanding that 54 of the West Virginia counties have already either begun or
Yes.
finished.
That's correct.
So we're not blazing new trails or anything.
That's correct.
This is, as you said, mandated, and it is the county only, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I failed to mention that. We are working with the municipalities, and which obviously Huntington's a large population of Cabell County. We are not doing Huntington per se because it already has city-style addresses. Most of it will be grandfathered. Atlas, our company, will give us some recommendations for changes because there's still a lot of duplication. We will give that to the city. We have already spoke to them about a couple of areas that we would like them to work with us on. Barbers Hill and Milton are the same. They have a couple of things that we think they need to change, and they are more than welcome to, they've asked us to work with them on it. So we'll be discussing those with them, and then they'll make the decision to go forward with some of the changes within those municipalities.
10:30 Tuesday at your
Uh,
shop?
Yes, sir. On the way out.
Any other questions? We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item 061, is a letter from Irv Johnson, Assessor, regarding funding for the Cabell Wayne Animal Shelter improvements.
I don't think Irv is here.
No Irv.
But he does this once a year. Comes out of the dog fund and the shelter, and the county really appreciate it, so.
I move to approve.
I second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It is approved. Thank Irv. Next item, 2103-25062, an agreement between Cabell County Commission regarding the State of West Virginia agreement between the Department of Arts, Culture, and History, and on behalf of Archives and History and on behalf of Records Management for Preservation Board and the Cabell County Commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
What are we approving?
This is a grant for Phyllis's office to, I believe, is scanning more record books and e-books. Hopefully to get some of these images
Right.
archived.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It is passed. Item 2103-25063, a letter which is a resolution, a grant application regarding Victims of Crime Act grant, otherwise known as VOCA, for fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $219,720.
Move to approve.
Second.
You doing that work too?
Yes, sir. That is, a grant that we apply for and receive every year to help
Right.
the prosecutor's office and the victims of crime advocate.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That passes. Item 2103, 25064, resolution, Cabell County Commission regarding employment. Andrew Webster, full-time permanent telecommunicator. Gregory Cody Brown, full-time temporary telecommunicator. Faith Nicole Irwin, full-time temporary telecommunicator? Okay. Luke Alexander Jordan, full-time temporary telecommunicator.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And next, resolution passes. Item 2103-25065, a report by Phyllis Smith, Cabell County Clerk, regarding the 2019-2020 revision footnotes and financial supplemental statement, and probably from Paul Rennick, CPA.
Hi, everyone. I know that if you look at the size of the report, you're praying that we don't go through everything. And what we tried to do, we put together a two-page executive summary, kind of an overview of the financial statements. One of the things that will happen after this, after the commission approves it, we've already talked with the auditor's state and let them know that it's in process. It'll be submitted to them, and then you guys will be undergoing an audit sometime over the next few months. Thing I'll just bring up, that the thing that's a little bit unique this year with COVID, as everybody understands, is that when we originally worked with you on putting together the schedule of federal assistance, that was done like the first week in July, because the state auditor wants that report done that quickly. Well, as of that time, you guys hadn't spent over $750,000 in federal awards, at least that we knew that you were going to get grants for. Well, subsequent to that time, we submitted up to the state, and subsequent to then, you guys have received a substantial amount of federal awards, which require you to be under what's called a single audit, which means that there's something called a schedule of federal awards assistance that has to be prepared, and then the auditors have to test some of those grants, mostly, primarily the COVID monies, because that's substantial. In the past year, you had the voter equipment grant, which put you over the $750,000 award schedule. So this year, we still have some work to do in terms of that, but that doesn't affect the financial report, because most of those grants were actually approved any time from August through just a month or two ago, and you received some of that money just now, even though it was for expenditures made way back, anywhere from March through June. And again, that was nobody's fault. That was just the reality of how legislation worked in the federal government and the state in terms of how grants were awarded. So that's just a supplemental note there that be aware. And most likely for fiscal year 2021, you'll be a single audit again, meaning one is the cost, the audit will cost a little bit more money, but you did receive a lot of federal awards, which is a positive thing. I mean, without those awards, you would put you in a much more difficult situation. But anyways, that's just kind of a side note. The report's probably 50-some pages long. The pages that, I don't want to call it utmost importance, but kind of page 5, which I'm going to summarize it right here though. Assets, what you own. It increased by about $3.6 million, 3.61, and there were several factors that applied to that. Cash went up by $1.97 million. Basically, when your cash receipts exceed cash disbursements, you did well. The other side of that will be interesting. I'll be interested to see how this year pans out, because you're getting a lot of grants that are reimbursements from last year. So that should still put you in a fairly reasonable position financial statement wise. Accounts receivable went down. Most of that was an increase in the allowance for doubtful accounts. Basically, when you're not able to collect on things like the ambulance service, which obviously in a time period with COVID, trying to collect on bills for services like that is gonna be difficult. And I know that the amount of delinquent accounts had increased pretty substantially there. So the receivables went down, grants receivable went up. CARES Act funding obviously was the primary reason for that. Machinery and equipment, there was a lot of expenditures, both for PPE equipment as well as vehicles. About 1.9 million for vehicles, and then about the remainder in other equipment. So there was accumulated depreciation, basically showing how the assets wear out. That went up by 2.1 million. And again, that's not cash going out the door, but that's the assets wearing out, and eventually you have to replace them. And that's why when you spend, $2.5 million on equipment, that's really not a surprise, because your equipment's gonna be wearing out pretty quickly. Net pension assets, I would ignore that number, because I don't wanna call it a meaningless number, but basically the state pension system is run, you guys don't have your own pension system. They do actuarial reports, and we are required to report both any assets that are report there and any liabilities, but you're not actually paying that. As long as you pay the retirement contributions and your TEIA contributions for post-employment, that's all you're required to do. But for financial reporting purposes, we have to include it on your balance sheet. So things like net pension assets or net pension liability, or what we call net OPEB, which is other post-employment liabilities, those, I don't want to call them meaningless, but they really aren't. We're required to report it, but it's handled by the state. You make your contributions, that's all you're gonna do. They're not gonna send you a bill for $2.5 million because you owe for OPEB, but we have to report it. So just be aware of that. Liabilities, we always think it's positive when liabilities go down, not go up, and if at all possible. And you had the voting equipment liability, that bond, it went down by about 0.45 million. Payables went up a little bit, but again, accounts payable are bills you pay in July and August that relate to the prior year. Those are always gonna vary depending on the timing of when you get your invoices. Contractors send their bills timely. You aren't gonna have as many payable normally, but a lot of times timing's just gonna vary. And with COVID and everything that was going on, we know there's gonna be delays there from their side, so. Notes payable, that was the voting machines, I'm sorry, the bonds was the other piece, that went down again. Net pension liability, the thing I mentioned, you really don't worry about, ignore it, went up. But again, it's actuarial reports. If the pension system did well, they have the assets going up, they don't have as much experience or as many people retiring, you're gonna have positive things happen. If it goes the opposite way, then it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. But all in all, from a perspective, it's not too bad. Other post-employment liabilities, that's the healthcare piece for retirement system. That went down by $1 million. Again, you guys didn't spend $1 million, but it was just an actuarial calculation. So, compensated absences, that's sick leave and vacation. It went up a little bit. That's gonna happen as you have your people, as they, if you don't have as many people retire as they earn sick leave and vacation, that liability is gonna go up. Eventually, it has to be paid out once they retire. So it's just another factor we include in there. That pretty much covers on page 5 what the big ticket items are. Page 6, really, what's a nice way to put it? But from an accounting side, we have to show you this, but it can be kind of complex, complicated. What we always look at is say, okay, what's the bottom line? Well, revenues went up by about 0.97. The biggest reason for that was some of the CARES Act money that we recognized as a receivable because you got it in, say, July or mostly August, maybe September, but so you didn't have the cash in hand, but it was for some expenses incurred. Then a lot of the other grants were approved later on, so we can't recognize those as revenues, but again, they'll be shown on your schedule. Increased charges for services, about 0.55 million. Expenses went up, which might say, well, how'd that happen in a COVID area? Well, reality was there's a lot of expenses associated with that. Just the whole overall, EMS was a big factor. They went up by about $1 million in terms of salaries. You also went up in some of the other funds by about $0.7 million. Again, there you had the payments for the, what do you call it, the safety, the extra pay for personnel and those kind of things. Obviously, those people working out there were subject to a lot of potential health concerns, and some of the money that went out for that, and just taking care of the community. So those expenses went up, but overall, still, you put yourself in a pretty good position. The other thing that went up was pension and OPEB, which is the thing we talked about before. That has nothing to do with your cash outlay. It's just an accounting convention of recording the change in liabilities and those type of things. Overall, the county's done a really good job of maintaining control over their expenses and what you can control over the revenues. You can't force people to make payments on things like ambulance payments and those kinds of things. I mean, you can turn it over to a collection or figure out a way, but the reality is you're still going to provide EMS services and those type of things to the community. You have to. That's a civic obligation, but the county's done an excellent job of keeping financials in solid shape in such a difficult, challenging time. And we think that's an important factor that not everybody always understands. You look at it and you say, well, you guys always hear the negative things, so I can just say from a positive side, you know. We think that keeping control of your budgets in a pandemic is very, very positive. Any questions? I know I'm looking at a report that size, it's kind of overwhelming. Just remember, this is what we call unaudited financial statements. It would still be subject to the audit, and if they have any potential adjustments or recommendations or anything, but we just want to express appreciation to that commission, Phyllis and her group, and all the departments that provide assistance in this makes the process easier. As a county, you're huge, and you have a lot of operations in all different departments and agencies. And people working together is the only way you can get everything together. So we just appreciate it. If there's anything, I'll be glad to answer.
I think generally you think, well, the CPA's coming, and you think, uh-oh, you know. But I would like to thank you for that brief explanation. I would like to thank the elected officials and commission staff and everybody, Phyllis and all, for all of this that appears to be a rosy statement this year for as we would go into the audit from you and from everybody else. Any questions or comments from anybody?
Sounds like we're on the right track.
It does. We thank you, sir. And I guess we will receive your report. Next item then is item 21-03-25-066, Cabell County Commission Annual Memorandum of Agreement regarding the WVU Cooperative Extension Service beginning July 1st, 2021, which I guess is the same as last year.
It is, yes.
I move we approve.
I will second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That passes. Item number 21-03-25-067, approval of the 2021-2022 Cabell County General Fund and Coal Severance Fund levy estimate in the budget document.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, this is the county budget for General County Fund 1. Have to submit it by March 28th every year, and this year's budgeted amount upon approval by you all and the state auditor's office is $22,065,786. No, I'm sorry, that's last year's amount. This year's amount is $22,006,323. This year's amount's about $61,000 less than last year.
Find anything real interesting in all that?
No, I just wish they'd give us another revenue stream, and at some point we'd take a look at the Special Act of 1967.
Okay,
So.
right. Comments, motions?
Move to approve.
Thanks to Beth for her hard work on this.
Yeah,
And I second
well,
that.
everybody's hard work
Yeah,
when they
thanks.
come with
Yes.
their presentations and other things. We appreciate it, and we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it's close to March the 28th too, isn't it?
Yes.
Then we have item 068, a resolution, Cabell County Commission, which is a county budget revision having to do with,
The county clerk's office is moving money from capital outlay to contracted services, $24,000.
we have a motion, or Phyllis have any comments? Nope.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Resolution passes. Item 069 is a resolution for Cabell County Commission State Budget Revision Number 6.
This is a state revision, and this is actually to increase law enforcement due to reimbursements from some of the sheriff's contracts that he has. It's also a state revision that the county commission is making. We're moving some money from our IT department where we had a little bit excess, and we're working that into day report, home confinement and our commission budget line items. No, it was day report, wasn't it? I'm sorry, yes, into day report. That's that yearly payment we make for the grant match we do for Day Report Center.
Move to approve.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Next, we have before us item 070, Angela Adams, discussion of a senior levy funding request fiscal year 2020-2021 regarding the Mountain State Center for Independent Living for $30,000. Kelly, or?
You want to speak?
Please, yeah.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you this morning to request this. My name is Angela Adams. I am the President CEO of Mountain State Centers for Independent Living here in Huntington. And we've been serving people with disabilities since 1981. I personally have taken over this position as of January the 1st of this year, so I am new to the position. We serve people in Cabell and Wayne counties both. The request today is for us to serve those senior population in our disability community in Cabell County with technology. We have found through the pandemic, actually, that there's a real deficit with our people that we serve, that they don't have access to devices and also to sometimes public Wi-Fi. So the seniors that we are assisting, we are requesting this funds to purchase tablets for them and for them to come into our center, which is over on 4th Avenue, and to have training. And also, if they don't have something simple like email. And it was difficult sometimes for some of our consumers to connect so that they could even get the vaccine. And so they were reaching out to us in our office to be the liaison between them and getting that done. So we saw a need, and so we thought that if the county could assist us, we would have a training session for our consumers that are eligible as seniors, and that they could go through the training process and have this item as well, that to have the tablet.
I'm gonna move to approve. many of you all know Leo, you know, our beloved Leo, and he's been stuck in the house and not been able to get out. He was the mainstay here at the courthouse as well as the library. And so I think that this approval, if it's approved for this expenditure, would go a long way to help him feel like he's connected. And has it been a big struggle for your
Yes.
clients like Leo?
Yes, very,
And we miss him.
very. He's healthy and he's doing well, but he's a people person, just to give you an update. He's very much a people person. And so just the idea of him having to stay in all this time has been difficult for him. And then just, we have lots just like him that are having a difficult time.
And these would be on sort of a loan program, I take it, to the recipients of the pads and,
Yes, we have toyed with the actual idea of actually, when they complete the whole program of the training, if they're able to do this on their own, that we could give that item to them at the end of the training program as well, because some can and some cannot. But we have a technology lab in our offices that we are forming as we speak. I don't know if you've seen the construction out front, but we're forming this technology lab, and we want them to know that they can also come into our office too, because we're going to offer public Wi-Fi for them.
And this is specific to the senior population,
Yes,
you
it
said?
is. Mhm.
did you find any surprises when you started taking the front off the building?
A lot. A lot. There's a lot of hidden history in the front of that building.
Yeah, familiar with the block. Any questions from anyone?
I'll make the motion.
Is this an action item? Because it says just discussion.
I'm sorry.
So we have the resolution.
It just says discussion. I didn't know
I was gonna move
if
it
there was
to-
action on it today or not.
I was gonna move it.
Is there a resolution? Yeah.
Yes.
So I've moved.
I noticed 2 or 3 of our items are like that, just discussion.
I don't have a resolution.
I didn't think so. There
Well-
isn't a resolution.
Thought I saw it.
I think we wanted to just learn more about it.
Do
Says
we-
whereas the county commission being
Now that's,
of the opinion,
You know, that we,
that's not a resolution.
somebody
yet,
worked
is
through
it?
that. Do we need,
We would
That's a
have to
part
have
of what they
resolution.
submit.
have to have a resolution?
Yes.
Yeah,
all right,
Okay.
well then we'll put on the next agenda.
yeah, I think
Okay.
today was just to find out more information about it and discuss it.
Okay, well,
Thank you all.
we thank you, and we will work towards getting that on the next agenda. Then we have a resolution, item 071, a resolution of Cabell County Commission in a matter of advertising a notice requesting a proposal for services for purchasing generators for Cabell County Senior Service Centers from the senior levy funding. And I would guess that that's, each senior center probably has different requirements for hookups and installation, but I'm guessing that this is to have them in and working. Is that correct?
I,
Yeah, in the RFP, I put, let's see, the 5 centers, and then I tried my best to specify, each thing to be, specified for each site.
Right.
Type, the size, the type, the fuel type, the hookup, all that stuff. I tried to make sure I put at each site what was best for that.
I asked for this item to be put on the agenda because a few years back, we did a hookup for the Salt Rock Senior Center. And this year, when the power and everything went out, Gordon took a generator out there, hooked it up, and it was very well received and used, I understand. Gordon, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. Mr. Holly, just add a little, they got this little information on it. Mr. Holly, during the ice storm, asked if we could do this, and we had a big power outage in the Salt Rock area. It's probably one of the hardest hit areas around. And it gave them a place during the day that they could charge their cell phones, their computers. They'd go there from 8 to 8, watch TV, just stay warm. Because most of the people wanted to go back to their house at night because they didn't want to leave it unoccupied. So it worked out very well, well received by the public. It's something that I feel is an excellent idea because a lot of these senior citizens are voting places. Marie Red Center, a couple of years ago, we were having voting, and in the middle of the voting, the electric went off. And it gives a safety net there. It also gives a safety net to our senior citizens, a place that they can go, stay, and be warm.
Well, I think it's a wonderful idea. We do have money in our senior levy to cover it. We think we will have to put it out to bid and see how those numbers come in. But I just think it would be a real asset to the senior community.
Yeah.
And I know Charlie Holly thinks it's a great idea.
Every center would be different because there's different sizes, they need different size generators. But it's so nice to just be able to not have to worry about the electric and automatically transfers when they lose their power. And then we have a place that if we need to put the seniors, we can put them. And as I said, Salt Rock was a home run for us.
Do we have any idea as to our costs or?
Well, in looking at them previously for here and the courthouse and up at the field office, it's probably gonna run somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $50,000 per unit.
Well, and
But obviously, you know.
yeah, our resolution just allows the advertising for bids.
Right.
Right. We
Right.
can see when they come in if we
Sure.
want to continue with
Right.
the project.
Okay.
This is for all the senior centers, whether they're members of the CISO.
Doesn't have anything to do with CISO, it's just for senior
Yeah.
centers.
Like Barboursville would be included.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
put
sure.
it as I put them in.
I think there's a list of them, isn't there?
Yeah, I put all 5 of them and their
Right.
addresses, so, at the beginning of the RFP.
Okay. So
I don't know how you could leave a senior center out on a project like this. And that's what the levy money's for, is for seniors all over, so it
Right.
doesn't specify CISO in any way.
Move to approve.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next, we have the discussion, item 072, discussion Cabell County Commission funding for chainsaws for Cabell County volunteer fire departments, the volunteer fire departments. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
Well, once again, Andrew had already presented at the previous meeting, so we have all of our information in the file provided. And if we don't have a resolution,
I had a couple of questions. One, Andrew, why are we doing 14 chainsaws for 8
It's 2.
volunteer fire departments?
We only have 7 in Cabell County, that's 2 per fire department.
I keep thinking our money goes out and it goes to Huntington as well, so that's where I come up with 8.
Now, I didn't include Huntington in it because they get the.
Right.
So I just quoted that on 2 chainsaws per volunteer fire department.
2 per
Yes,
unit.
2 per department.
Did they all come out that night and cut down trees? Because I understand some of them didn't.
No, everybody, the more eastern part of Cabell County, they got hit pretty hard, but this area got hit the hardest. And, but everybody was out using them, and also, in addition to not just, say, the trees down the roadway, these are gonna be essential too in brush fires. which just this past Sunday, we had to go help Green Valley on one, and literally had 4 chainsaws up on the hill, and that was, we were lucky to have those 4, and we needed actually 1 or 2 more. So, these will be put to use, it's not like they're just gonna be stored up and used once every blah, blah, blah.
Well, do I understand you had chainsaws in the beginning when you went out, when the ice storm hit?
Yes, we did. We do have some, but it's good to have some backups. I mean, when you're out there sawing and a blade of bar bends or something malfunctions with it, that is just this is basically these 2 chainsaws would go a long ways. And if the fire departments didn't have these, and another storm hit like that, and they got stuff that fell, 3/4 of Cabell County out in the county wouldn't be able to get anywhere.
I think EMS was out that night as well as the sheriff's office, and even the city of Huntington was out helping with the trees and things.
Well, I can tell you, in the month of February, in the 28 days, counting the ice storm was the biggest thing. In addition to a couple alarms and our normal calls that we get at Barbersville, we ended up, I think, with 183 type of responses just for February alone, which 3/4 of those were related, weather related.
Since we need a resolution, we'll have to put that on the next agenda, but I have a question for you, at least to contemplate. You contacted me, and I don't know about the other commissioners, concerning, I think it was the flooding afterwards and the lack of dumpsters for hauling away
Yes.
unfortunately, probably everything somebody owned, that sort of thing. Is it discussion? Suppose that each volunteer fire department had a disaster fund, call it whatever you want to, and not a great amount, but money that in unusual cases you could use to secure dumpsters. If you had another ice storm and you had 2 chainsaws and you needed 2 more, you could use that fund to go buy it. Would that be something that would be helpful?
Yes, it would be, and what you're referring to when I contacted you was the one street in the Williamsburg Colony area.
Right.
Ford. That one road got hit really hard, especially with the houses on the right-hand side of you. And that's why I was, wanting to know if the commissioner or county, if you all had something set up like that, because they could easily use 2 long dumpsters, and they wouldn't even probably just put them off the truck. They'd have been full within 2 or 3 hours, because there's that much damage done to those homes.
Yeah,
So, in reference to, would that be beneficial to the fire departments? I can speak for all the county volunteers, yes, that would.
What I had some comments about that, and the county personnel-wise really doesn't have anybody to look over anything like that. I understand you put a dumpster out, and in particular cases, you may have it filled up by people who we haven't put it out there to serve their needs. So, possibly if it were through a volunteer fire department, they would police whatever was going on, if you would, or that sort of thing. We're just trying to find some way to do it and have the manpower and woman power to take care of it. So we'll throw that one around too sometime. But and I guess in this discussion, we would then want to have a resolution on the agenda next time where we could.
I would like to know where the money's coming from, because our budget is set and all of our money's been allocated. So in order to give them money, you're gonna have to take money away from somebody else. And we used to give the volunteer fire departments money, and they needed more money because it was never enough, which I certainly understood. But we decided the way to get money for the volunteer fire departments to do a levy. So we put a levy on the ballot for the taxpayers to vote on, and they voted to fund this levy, which you all get about $54,000 per volunteer fire department per year now from that levy.
That's correct.
I don't know of any place else that we can take the money without taking it away from somebody else, because all of our money's allocated in a budget.
Well, there's-
And our budget's pretty much set by the state of West Virginia. And
I'd like to, I want to go back a little bit about the equipment first. Okay, the saws are a critical piece of equipment for us, but also in the safety aspect, the hearing protection that I gave you all is also Bluetooth compatible. The newer radios that we are, we have a grant out between us, Iowa Road, and HONA to get new radios. Green Valley's taking the grant and has them. The new portables can be Bluetooth compatible. So if you're using a saw or a blower, you know, something that's really loud and you have those on, then if there's emergency traffic or something like that, they'll be able to hear that. So I wanted to touch about that part right there. I understand your point about where money can come from, but, and yes, the fire departments do receive X amount of dollars a year, and that's very, very much appreciated. And it's, every penny is well spent. But with the increase of stuff as well, just a pair of the fire pants and the jacket alone now was over $2,000. It's gone up and everything. So with the storm, the ice storms that happen in summertime coming in, we're gonna get these other bad storms coming down. And it'll take a little bit of time to get the saws in. So that's why I was wanting to know, which this would be voted on today by you all.
Is,
I can get the process going.
not the general cost of homeowners insurance somewhat based on ratings of fire protection also, which is dependent upon the quality of the fire protection that's provided?
Are you referring to like the ISO rating?
Yes.
State Farm has gone away from using that. Nationwide, I know, still uses the ISO rating, which ours, if you meet certain criteria, ours is, we drop, which is good, if you meet the criteria. But as for the way we're understanding it, more insurance companies are going to get away from doing the ISO rating. It's just to kind of put it right through.
So I have a question for Beth, our county administrator. The $17.5 million we're gonna receive soon from CARES Act, would that not qualify for this expenditure? It looks like it's.
Probably have to ask to make sure, but it does seem that funding is, for broad use, but.
I think it's $9,000 is the request, $9,799.
Yes, it's just a hair under 10,000.
CARES Act money's pretty well determined how it's used. It had to be for that particular pandemic. Is that what we're talking about, CARES money?
Or
Well, I
what
think
is
it was
WINS
stated it's
money?
more liberal.
The other money, if you're talking about the other money, or are you talking about the CARES money?
I'm talking about the $17.5 million we're set to receive here shortly due to the stimulus. And the stimulus was a little bit more lenient as opposed to the CARES Act funding that we got that was very specific as to how we have to spend it.
Well, the 17.5 has parameters on it as well.
But they're not as
It
strict.
says you can use it for COVID, you can use it for infrastructure, you can use it for broadband, and that's pretty much it.
It
It's a
also,
little.
it could be used if people wanted to go get shot or get tested, they can't get out for the trees in the road.
Well, you could make an argument for just about anything, but we've got to be responsible to the government, so it does
Right.
make a difference. I guess the reason I'm asking these questions is the fire departments are not a part of our county budget because you all are separate entities. You're a 501c3 governed by a board of directors. So it's not like where we fund our elected officials and all the other things that go on with county government. And so you're considered funding an outside agency. And my question is, where do we get the money to do that at this point in time? And it's a big question. It's not a little question.
I understand, but it's just, like I said, just a hair under 10,000.
I understand what you're saying,
Okay.
but it's doing it the right way to cover ourselves.
Well,
And-
on both questions, the CARES Act which is, at this point, some of it yet to be expended, and the West Virginia funding in the COVID bill, it was my understanding that several of the major law firms in the state and our Mr. McCuskey, our state auditor, are all more than willing to give us advice on how to spend that money. And I think that Steptoe is working on what their thoughts are at the American Rescue Plan, I guess it's called ARP. This letter says have a long history of working with government entities to help them realize the full benefits of federal economic development funding through such programs. So,
For a mere 10% of the budget.
Yeah, they just want money from
well,
part of
I
the money.
understand,
That's what
but
that's
there
all
are,
about.
uh,
Well, Beth's had a great success in just, she's very good about contacting them to find out how we can actually spend the monies before we do it.
Right.
And I don't think we've had a problem with that at all.
No, I don't
It's
either.
worked out
but
very well for
the-
us.
The guidelines given on the back of this that do point out that it's water, sewer, broadband infrastructure projects that are prioritized, but it doesn't say that that's all there is. So we're just gonna see what we could find out, what we might fund with all that.
Well, that's the reason I brought it up. I just wanted to know where the money was gonna come from.
I think this precedent was set whenever the commission approved economic development money for residential neighborhoods to have fire hydrants. I don't think that was considered
But that was a,
economic development.
that's a levy. It's not our general fund budget, it's a levy. And there is a difference.
Nonetheless,
Bring it up.
Andrew, we're working on it.
See you in 2 weeks, is that
The
right?
wheels of government turn slow,
Too slow for
We will
me.
do our best. in 2 weeks.
unfortunately.
Too slow for me.
Moving on to the next item, which is discussion by the Cabell County Commission for acquiring parking or a lot adjacent to the courthouse, and that's not exactly right. It's on the corner across the street. Our resident real estate agent, in order to avoid appearance of any collusion, asked me to check that out, and there is a lot right over there on what would be the southwest corner of 7th Street and 4.5 Alley. Multiple listing 169760 that is for sale. It is listed at $75,900. It was purchased, the last transaction was in 2017 for $59,000. You've heard about going into a bar and writing things on napkins. Well, there's my notes.
You could have said a
It's a
church.
paper towel.
Could have said a church.
Yeah. And parking is always not an issue, but it's one of the things that makes working here another benefit, that parking is available, not free, but available. And the question came up, should the commission seek to acquire that? And should we work to make an offer on it? And ethics being what they are, all of these things are to be discussed in open meetings. So now we're having a discussion.
Do you have the information, Jim, as to the income that is provided through the rent of those spaces?
It was, there were, yeah, it was about $6,000 a year. I mean, that's not exact, but it was about that.
And the asking price is $75,900.
Right.
Not, I mean, you could always negotiate that down.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I'm not sure if that's at that price, a reasonable investment if you were looking for a return on your purchase, but it does kind of fit with what we're doing, and I guess it would allow, are we still renting places that are further down that alley? Or are
Some
the
of our-
employees renting places that are
Some of the employees do, yes,
down the alley,
yes,
making them walk past Harmony House and
yes.
other things down there? Right.
And we still have a waiting list of employees that
Yes.
needing parking.
Yes.
As well as that would open up some spaces for the public to come and conduct business, because when this courthouse was constructed, we didn't have the drug court, family court, so there's more traffic that comes to the courthouse.
Problem with that, you can't rent them to the employees and assign them to them and then use them for public use too.
It would free up some more space if we had some of the other cars off of 7th Street, if we decided to do it that route. Meantime, you get some property that opens up that is contiguous or adjacent to a place of business that, for the county, you know, you hate to pass that up. Land is an important commodity, and it doesn't come along every day.
A wise,
So I would be in support of it.
a wise gentleman once said they don't make any more land.
They do not.
Make
You actually
other
had to own
things.
land to vote one at one time in our history of our nation.
What do you think would be a reasonable price to offer them for the property, based on the numbers that you already have?
Me?
Mm-hmm. Or do you have any thoughts on
I
that
defer
yet?
to my in-house, the comment that I have received was, well, why don't you make an offer of 65 and see what happens? 65,000.
We certainly don't want to give up our bargaining position and let them know what we're willing to pay for it. But I say go as low as we can. They can always say no, and they can do a counteroffer. So, are we supposed to discuss the amount if we're gonna pursue it?
I don't know. You know, other things go out for bid. What do we do about something like that, Bill?
If you,
Or do we let our attorney negotiate?
well, if you want to negotiate with them and make an offer, I mean, assuming, I guess it gets back to what we've been discussing about funding, you know, where does the money come to acquire that? Assuming that you have it available, then you would just, you know, make an offer like any real estate transaction and let them accept it or respond or, you know, come back with a counteroffer.
Maybe we better figure out where the money would come from and put it back on the agenda again.
Right. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
think
think
we
you,
have
to.
Okay.
that's important to,
Yeah, we, on something like that, we would just do it out of the commission budget.
Right.
Okay. Well, we've discussed it. And
What's our pleasure? I know we're not gonna vote, but don't we have to know if we have a desire collectively?
if we've, I would be willing to support making an offer. I don't know exactly what offer at this point, but if we have the money and various things.
Yeah, and I think if the price is right, that has everything to do with it.
Okay. Item number 074 calls for an executive session for discussion of litigation And Nancy, you make the motion so well.
I move we go into executive session to discuss the opioid litigation with our attorneys.
We have a second? Do we have a motion?
I move we return to regular session following an executive session where there was no action taken.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. At this point, we will place on record other documentation to be recorded. Salt Rock Sewer Public Service District Annual Audit Report for fiscal years ended June 30, 2020 and June 30, 2019. Culloden Public Service District Financial Statements, years ended June 30, 2020 and 2019. And Armstrong Cable Company rate adjustment.
Move to place on record.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we have commissioners' representation reports, good and welfare of Cabell County?
Everything's good?
Having finished signing all the documents, when we finish, we will stand adjourned, and I think we have finished.
I think we've done it.
We did it.
Good.